Thank you so much for joining us today for the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. Here on the Pastor's Potluck, it's similar to a normal potluck where you might get something that you want and there may be something that you just want to pass up altogether. And that's okay. There's something here for everybody. Our goal here is to encourage you and maybe in the process entertain you. If you're ready, let's dig in. Welcome to another episode of the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. Yes, that is hot. That is a candle.
Yeah.
Feels good. Move it over this way.
See if we can warm us up. I'm freezing today. There's another spot where you clean the table. I am free. My office is still not warmed up.
Yeah.
My heater's been on for like 3 hours, but it's just that cold right now.
Yeah. Dude, we're supposed to be getting like another cold spell too, like towards the end of February and March.
The HVAC will be fixed by then, thankfully.
Hopefully.
I think we've got like one more week, and the parts should be in.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very cold. When my hands are numb, it's very hard to type.
Yeah.
And to do much of anything.
Yeah, it's I was actually this is going to be completely random, but I was you know this, I'm like an information hog. And so like there's things that you get on like a tangent and you're like, "Oh, okay, cool. Like I'm just going to go down this rabbit hole." So recently I went down the Titanic rabbit hole, and they were saying the water temperature was like in the minus, but it just because of the salinity of it, it doesn't freeze at like 32 degrees Fahrenheit. It's like a lot colder. And there was a guy who was a bakery chef on the Titanic who survived for 2 hours, 2 hours in the water before the rescue boat could come and like just try to sift through and try to figure out what was happening and what people and all that other stuff, and get Rose off the door.
Yeah, right after she killed Leo.
But what he did is he ended up like going back to the kitchen after, because it was their job to like get everybody on the boats and stuff like that. He ends up like running back inside and going to the kitchen and getting like obliterated by drinking a lot. But because of the alcohol content in his system, he was able to survive.
Wow.
What typically killed people in like 2 minutes or something like that.
That's wild.
So if you ever get too cold, you know what you need to do.
Oh my gosh.
That's so stupid. Don't do that. Just be ready to meet Jesus.
Yeah, I would. Oh my gosh. Like, have you ever been to one of the Titanic like tourist places?
No, I've heard that you can like dip your hand in the water.
You can put your hand
and
in
stuff
water
like that
it'll let you feel.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's actually how cold, but like it's cold, and I'm like, nah, just take me home, Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm done. I don't like cold anything, but especially being wet and cold
I know,
in
dude.
some water. Nah, you can count me out.
No.
I do not like that at all.
No, you turn into like a chihuahua, just shaking all the time. Like you just can't. There's nothing that you can. It takes forever to get warm again.
Yeah, I don't like. That's why I can't get warm today.
Yeah.
It's just been cold all day.
Do you need a hug? I
can't
don't
wait to
provide
go
much
home.
warmth.
No.
But are you sure?
No. I literally went out just to go to the store so I could get out of my office. It's so cold in there.
Yeah, it's warmer outside than it is inside the building.
And it's cold outside.
It's so dumb. But yeah, I mean, if that's like literally all we've got to deal with, then you know, life is relatively good.
Yeah, it's only a couple weeks.
Alrighty. Well, we're getting back into our conversation with Jonah. It's funny how like God can take just a topic and, you know, kind of lead us in the way that he wants us to. And essentially where we left off at, was Jonah's kind of like making up these excuses, and he's making up, he's doing whatever he has to do to try to get out of what God has called him to do. And I kind of want to like just kind of break down kind of like Jonah's mindset.
Yeah.
I guess we kind of have to get like a little bit of backstory of Jonah and where he was at, and and what was happening in Nineveh.
Yeah.
To kind of paint a picture for that. So talk a little bit about that for us.
Yeah. So God shows up and calls this guy named Jonah to go to the area of Nineveh. Now, the people of Nineveh were really, really despicable people by all accounts.
Yeah.
Like, they were just behaving in such a way that was very detrimental to themselves, to each other. And so it was the type of nation that you would see that God would go, you know what? In this moment, the most loving thing I can do is actually make you not exist anymore because of the level of disaster that you're creating, right? Because God is a God of life. God is a God of new creation. These nations that bring about death and almost decreation in the sense, God stands opposed to them and, would seek to exercise judgment against them, just like he would during the times of Israel's history that they chose to be more in alignment with death and decreation, the new creation. So he calls Jonah to these people in Nineveh, so when he's called, Nineveh is 500 miles northeast of Palestine, of where kind of the headquarters of the Jews at the time was.
Yeah.
And then instead of going to Nineveh like God asked him to, he actually heads to an area called Tarshish, which is 2,000 miles west.
In the opposite direction.
Probably somewhere around Spain.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, he was told to go northeast. He goes 2,000 miles west.
Yeah.
Like, gets as far as humanly possible away from where he is supposed to go. And on the surface, like, you go, like, why did Jonah do this? Like, why? I mean, clearly Jonah was somebody that God had a good relationship with to go and call him to this. Jonah's a prophet. He's getting this opportunity to go and to preach against their wickedness and to get them to turn to God before they are destroyed. And Jonah is there's something going on that sometimes we miss in regards to this.
Yeah.
And that's that the people of Nineveh were of a group of people that the Jews were not on good terms with. And so this was Jonah being asked to go to a group of people that is not his own to preach this loving message to them. And this is what Jonah does not want to do. Jonah does not have love for his enemies. Jonah does not want to go and warn these people of the coming judgment whatsoever. Now, on one side, you go, okay, Jonah, that seems maybe a little racist, that you don't want to go help another group of people. That seems a little bigoted of you. That seems a little unloving of you. Then on the other side of it, like you do feel a little bit for Jonah when you go, okay, God just asked you to go to these people who the whole reason why God wants to destroy them is that they are known for their brutality and their violence. And God wants you to go and say something to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jonah's probably feeling also a little bit of like self-preservation. He's like, well, wait a second. It's like, do you walk up to the bully at school if you know that you're going to get punched in the face and say something to? Probably not. You probably run the other direction. Like, no, I don't want to get hurt today.
Well, it's so easy from the outside looking in and go, well, I can't believe that you didn't do that. But if you put yourself in that type of situation, you're like, well, I kind of understand, Jonah. I understand you did what you did.
Yeah, like, would you really like to go up against a group of people that are known for their violence and brutality and tell them how wrong they are and that God's going to wipe them off the face of the earth? Would you really want this? Is like that's a very real fear for Jonah. That's like the problem that like with preaching sometimes, like just you go, all right, something's got to be said, right? But thankfully, like the people in the church, like they might say mean things to you, but they won't kill you normally, which is nice. But like for Jonah, he's thinking, if I go do this, these people are just going to kill me.
Yeah,
like maybe I can do more for God by not listening in this moment, by saving my life rather than going and being obedient, because these people are awful.
Yeah.
These people are horrible. Like I don't want to see God save them. I don't want God to, I just let God do what he's going to do and leave me out of it, because yes, I do think that there is some partiality and some discrimination going on Jonah's part, because those aren't his type of people. The other side of it is there is an innate self-preservation within all of us, right? All of us have that tendency to do whatever we possibly can to try to stay alive as long as possible.
Yep.
Right? That's why, we go to the gym, we, eat vegetables. It's like the reason why you do this type of stuff, if you do it, is because of the innate, self-preservation that is within you.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't go and jump out of planes.
Yeah.
Because of that same thing. I don't go and do a lot of dangerous activities because of that self-preservation.
Well, just even minor stuff. Whenever you get in your car, you put on your seatbelt. You go to the doctor for checkups regularly. It's like little stuff, like things that you do to take care of yourself that ultimately, whenever those big decisions come, you're still going to be able to say, okay, look, I've been doing a really good job with all the small stuff, taking care of myself. Yeah. And whenever the big stuff comes, I'm going to make sure that I'm still taking care of myself.
Yeah. In the West, we have an anti-death, mentality.
Yeah.
Because, if you were to go over to, a third world country where the infant mortality rate is just, something that you couldn't even imagine. Those people are so accustomed to death that I'm not saying that it doesn't hurt when these things happen, but they are much more desensitized to us, to death. Whereas here in the West, when someone is taken, quote unquote, before their time, we are devastated.
It's my foot.
Okay.
I'm fidgeting.
Devastated by that, right? We do everything in our power to stay alive as long as we possibly can. Everything in our culture is all about, okay, safety, right? I was at a Little League meeting last night, and someone from the city came over and talked about the new weather protection app that the city got to tell us if there's lightning within 10 miles of the field.
Yeah.
Everything is about self-preservation. And so, this is something that we should be able to understand, but everyone throws Jonah under the bus and, just gives him a hard time. It's like, seriously, would you really, if you knew that your life could be in danger, would you really go and do something different than what Jonah did? I don't know if you would. Right? That's why that's why God doesn't call everyone to ministry, because...
Well, and the kicker is that so many people don't know that God has had this conversation with Jonah.
Yeah. Yeah, because it could just look like Jonah showing up and going, you guys suck.
Yeah. To everybody else, his friends and family, it probably looks like, just Jonah's going on vacation. He's headed to Spain to go sit on the beach and, just soak up the sun. But, we don't know what everybody else is thinking around him. But obviously, I think that if you... It's just one of those things. It's like whenever God tells you to do something, you have to do it. Yeah. Obedience is key. It's number one. Regardless of the situation, how terrible it may sound. If I've got to go tell a group of people who are known for their violence, hey, y'all got to cut it out, or God's gonna literally just erase you from history.
Yeah, this is one of the things that people tell me a lot. If they're new to my preaching, is that they appreciate the fact that there's really nothing that I won't say.
Yeah.
There's not a topic that I won't cover, because I think that there is a way that you can do all of that in a very loving manner, knowing that I'll never see eye to eye with everyone. But when people say that, I go, I wonder how much of an interaction they've had with people that are not willing to do that.
Yeah.
The people that kind of skirt around the truth, people that preach every week that only ever preach the positive sides and never get to the difficult stuff, right? We have a series here every year where I answer people's questions, which forces me to go into topics that I really truthfully would rather not get into, because they're the ones that always get me in trouble with people. They're the ones that always get me fussed at, and I end up with 12 meetings afterwards, or someone sending me a nasty email about something. I'd rather not answer those questions, but like
I feel like sometimes though, like some of those questions that they're just seeing if you're gonna remain like the same on that stance, like that topic.
Yeah,
like,
because
we've talked about everything from
I've done abortion, I've done homosexuality,
Yeah.
I've done, things about the Holy Spirit, we've done mental health stuff here and suicide, we have done divorce and remarriage, we've done interracial marriage, like whatever it is that we've done the end times, whatever it is that people are wondering about, but like there's a way to answer these questions.
Yeah.
That you're not going to get 100% of people on board with you, because yes, at the end of the day you are speaking truth and not everyone wants to receive that truth. But there's also a way to do it that some folks don't pay attention. Like some people, it's just like, well, I'm just going to speak the truth no matter what. And it's like, yeah, but you could like do that in a way that maybe doesn't land you, in hot water with everyone and ruins your ability to minister to them.
Yeah.
So like, I don't skirt around the truth, but I will also make sure that there is enough grace and truth in anything that I say, to where I can a reasonable person.
Yeah.
And we know that there's unreasonable people in the world. You can't do nothing with them. Reasonable person will go, okay, I don't agree with you, but I see that you at least tried to handle that with as much grace as possible.
Yeah.
So that's like, nobody wants that job of going and confronting people.
No.
And that's like, so if we're reading this story and you're giving Jonah a hard time, you put yourself in that situation. Go think of the biggest, baddest person in your neighborhood, and I would love to know what you would do if God told you to walk up to them and say something to their face.
Yeah.
Most likely you're headed the opposite direction.
Or a coworker.
Yeah.
Just even a family member who you probably get along really well with, but they don't go to church or something like that. It's just that whenever God says to do something, like
bring up religion at Thanksgiving dinner with your it's like, how does that go? How does that go with your atheist cousin? How does that go well?
Yeah.
No, of course not. So it's probably like you probably like to skirt around it and stay away from it. So we say all that, like Jonah very well could have had bad motives in the fact that he did not like the Assyrians whatsoever, who were the people that lived in Nineveh.
Yeah.
They were the enemies of Israel. So there could have been a little bit of that going on. Could have also just been the fact that he was afraid to do what God called him to do because it could cost him his life.
Yeah. Yeah. We're called to you have it underlined in your notes here, but we're all called to be Jonah to every single person around us. And the crazy thing is that we don't need some voice to come out of the, whenever we're spending time and praying, and then we just hear this audible voice of God just saying, go to so-and-so's house and preach. Like, reading his word says that we're called to be spreading the gospel and going into all the world. And that's not necessarily, there are some people that are called to go to different areas of the world and be missionaries, but part of the world is also your workplace, your family, your homes, your spouse, your children, and leading them to a better understanding of who God is and who Jesus is and what Jesus has done for them. So one of the crazy things that happens in this story is that once Jonah makes his way all the way so far away, he gets on a boat and they're trying to cross this body of water. And so is it fishermen that he's with? He's with a group of fishermen, correct?
Yeah, he's with some sailors.
Yeah.
And this big storm comes, but even the sailors begin to freak out. So that's when you know. Like, if you're ever out on a boat with people that are like boat people, but the boat people start freaking out, this is why, like, I don't like to fly at all. And I was just showing Megan this morning. I've never seen this at all in my life. I got on my American Airlines app this morning, and it shows 4 trips for this year. I hate to fly. I never fly. But I have 4 trips that require flight this year. And I was like, I've never had this. I've got 4 flight. I hate flying.
Yeah.
But what I've learned to do is when I'm flying, like just stuff will happen. Like you hit turbulence and whatever. Early on, I would be like, man, I would freak out like when that would happen.
Yeah.
Actually, I was taking a group of students to International Youth Convention my first year in ministry.
Uh-huh.
I'm taking literally, I don't know, a dozen kids, maybe a couple of adults from West Virginia. We drove to Louisville and then flew to Denver, Colorado. So I've got a bunch of people's kids literally halfway across the country.
Yeah.
That flight from Louisville to Colorado kept hitting air pockets. I did not know this because I was not an experienced flyer at all. Kept hitting air pockets, and I'm not joking, dropping like 50 feet at a time. It felt like. It was like we were flying and to the point where some of these kids that I'm taking on this trip, this is their first flight. And it feels like this plane is falling out of the sky every couple of minutes for a little bit of it. There are grown people on the flight with me that have flown more than me that are going, what's going on? Like, this doesn't feel right whatsoever.
Yeah.
So there's always that type of stuff. Now, what I've learned is when you're on those flights, just watch the stewardess. If she is not freaking out, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Right? Everything's fine. Now, if you're ever on a plane and you're in mid-flight and the flight crew goes and sits down and buckles up, start praying.
Yeah.
Right?
Or they get on the intercom and they say, we're pausing drink service right now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's when you start going, all right, if they're freaking out, I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
Okay? That's what's going on here on the boat. These are sailors. These are fishermen. This is like, it reminds me of the story of the disciples when Jesus ends up walking on the water. They are fishermen. They've been out on the Sea of Galilee hundreds of times probably in their lifetime, and they are freaking out, which means that the storm that came upon them is like nothing else that they had ever experienced.
Yeah.
This is like something unreal is happening right now.
Yeah.
So Jonah is trying to leave his call and head the opposite direction. And it's so funny. Jonah, first off, it's funny that any of us, including Jonah, think that we can get away from the call of God in our life.
Yeah.
I don't even have like memories of this really, but other than I remember seeing a picture when I was like 4 years old of me with a moving box, big brown moving box with a Bible on it, and I was acting like I was preaching like my dad, because my dad was a preacher whenever I was growing up.
Yeah.
I had a picture. I've seen a picture of me doing that when I was like 3 years old. And then I think I've told this story before. I might have even told it on here before. When I was 18, or no, when I was 16, I preached at my youth group. I wasn't even a Christian. I wasn't even a Christian, and I preached, and it was like people told me how good it was.
Yeah.
And so it's like, then it doesn't matter who, you cannot get away from God's call in your life.
Yeah.
He will continue to come after you no matter what. So it's very funny to me that Jonah's on a boat thinking, ha ha ha, I'll just escape God. I'll get away from him. He won't be able to handle this. And I even have this note from the sermon that I preached on this, that God's plans are not going to be thwarted by some stubborn, puny prophet, right?
Yeah.
Like, and this is how we think about ourselves sometimes. Like, sometimes we give ourselves a little bit too much credit, thinking that we could actually stand in the way of what God wants to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, listen, I can't remember which one of the great church, it was either one of the great church fathers or someone from just church history in general, but they said, like, when you try to think about you standing in God's way, it's literally like a gnat standing in front of a freight train. Like, you're just, you don't have that much power compared to what's coming.
Yeah.
And so Jonah's trying to run away, and there's a storm that it says sent, and that the Greek word there is actually to hurl like a javelin.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So God is sending this. And when these sailors are freaking out, Jonah should have been freaking out.
Yeah.
But I believe we find out that Jonah's like chilling.
Yeah.
During the storm, which...
Well, I mean, because he knows. Like,
yeah.
It's like you've gotten caught. Like, I don't know, whenever I was younger, if I did something like terrible and like my dad found out, I would go run in the closet, but then
Yeah.
you can hear him like coming for me, Jared. Like
Yeah.
he's opening up doors. He going behind,
Yep.
seeing if I'm in the shower. Opening up the shower curtain. He's fine. He's trying to find me.
Yeah, he's gonna find you.
Yeah. And so but that whole time I'm just like, yeah, I'm a little bit scared, but I'm like, I know,
Yeah,
I know what this is. I know what this is about.
So Jonah's like relaxing and sleeping.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a good warning here too. If you're in the midst of your disobedience and that is your spiritual disposition, that you are at rest in your disobedience, then there is something really, really wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I've got to talk about holiness this weekend, which is a very difficult topic for me to preach about because it's one of those topics that it feels like everyone that you talk to has a little bit of a different bent on it, and you want to be as faithful as you possibly can to it and all that. But I will give this warning for sure. If you are living a life of disobedience and you are spiritually sleeping or relaxed, there is something really, really wrong.
Yeah.
Like, at the very least, if you're falling short, you should be intensely bothered by the fact that you are not where you ought to be.
Mm-hmm.
Jonah, in the midst of his fleeing from God, in the midst of his disobedience, is catching a nap. This is something that should get your attention really quick.
Yeah.
Like, if you can sin and not feel any urgency to make things right, not feel a sorrow for how you have behaved, this would be evidence that the Spirit is not within you. This would be evidence, depending on what camp you come from, that either you never were saved or you're not saved anymore, if that is your disposition. So it's really, really, really something to, like, if you can get comfortable in your sin after you say that you believe in Jesus, something is not right.
Yeah.
Because we talked about this past Sunday. Belief always affects behavior.
Yep.
Belief always affects behavior. This is like a little phrase that I learned early on. I feel like the Lord gave to me early on in ministry. And it was funny. We're doing this sermon series with the Church of God, and I was one of the pastors that they asked to submit resources that all the state could look at.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking through my notes that I submitted to the state, and almost every one of the sermons has that phrase in it. Belief affects behavior every single time. And that's because I am very intentional in the fact that I do not want anyone to think that they can be right with God and there not be some sort of transformation.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you say, I believe in God, okay, do you believe in the right God? Do you actually, but beyond belief, do you have faith? Do you trust in the way that it's actually transforming who you are? Like, there has to be, like, I'm not going to give away my opener for this weekend because I think it's going to be kind of a neat way for people to see. But, like, you'll be able to see something if something happened, right? Like, something, like, there will be evidence, there will be fruit if something actually took place.
Yeah.
Nobody ever gets saved and stays the same. Nobody ever really encountered Jesus with faith in the New Testament and stayed the same.
Yeah.
They didn't. People that couldn't walk, they got up and walked through faith. People that were, like someone like Zacchaeus, who was stealing from people, he encounters Jesus through faith, and now he's generous.
Yeah.
Everything that came in contact with Jesus by faith changed. Dead people brought back to life. Sick people made well. It over and over and over and over. You go look at the story of the Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul is a murderer.
Yeah, I was about to say
Literally.
murderers, like, they've changed to loving people.
Yeah, the Apostle Paul held the jackets of the people that killed Stephen in Acts chapter 7. He literally held. I mean, can you?
Yeah.
Have you ever, like, you remember ever seeing a fight, like, in high school or whatever, and it's like somebody take their jacket off? If you're the one that's holding your boy or your girl's jacket while they fight, you are in full approval of what they are doing.
Yeah.
Right? That's your statement of, I got your back. That was Paul.
Yeah.
Paul held their jackets while they stoned the first Christian martyr. That's his full approval. And then 2 chapters later, he meets Jesus and goes from persecuting the church to starting churches.
Yeah.
This, like, if there has to be something like that in your life, if you really got saved, there has to. I'm not one of those people that thinks that you go from 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds flat, spiritually speaking.
Yeah.
And I say that mainly based, anecdotally on my own life, because that hasn't been my trajectory.
Yeah.
Like, in some senses, I'm very thankful for where I'm at spiritually. In other senses, I'm very frustrated with the fact that I'm not further along.
Yeah, because we wasted so much time doing whatever the heck we wanted.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I wish I would have just had this wake-up call whenever I was a teenager. But, if you think about it, then I wouldn't have the wife and the kids. I wouldn't be in West Virginia, that's for sure. My whole life would be a completely different story than what it is now. Like, God has a unique way of using our own circumstances, but it's just a continual process. It's the marathon mentality. Like, I'm going to continue to put one foot in front of the other and to continue to get better and to continue to strive and chase after the things of the kingdom and of Jesus and hopefully take as many people as I can along with me on this journey. But yeah,
this is.
But I love that phrase though. Belief affects behavior.
Yeah. Because what you get sometimes in the church is sometimes we only focus on behavior.
Yeah.
Well, behavior is driven by belief. So if you don't inform the beliefs properly, then you're just going after short-term results of behavior. That won't last.
Yeah.
If you only ever focus on the belief, though, without telling them that should manifest in different behaviors, then you fill up people's head with a bunch of Bible knowledge, but it has no application whatsoever.
Yeah.
So you have to do both of these things simultaneously. Like, you can't put the cart before the horse, but you also just can't fill your head up with, knowledge and never actually see anything change.
Yeah.
So Jonah and them are experiencing this big storm, and it's crazy because these well-versed sailors are freaking out. They wake Jonah up, and they're like, we've already took care of praying to our gods, and they're all polytheists. Nothing's happening. So clearly, this is a beef that you have with your God.
Yeah.
And so they're like, why don't you pray to your God? Which is very funny. How polytheists, they just they'll just add another god, no matter, making sure all of my bases are covered at all times. Yeah. So they're like, okay, let's try your God.
Yeah.
And honestly, this is how a lot of people treat their lives still to this day.
Yeah.
It's like, when something's going wrong, I will try anything. Right? Okay. It reminds me of Ricky Bobby when he's got the invisible fire on him.
Yeah,
he's like, "Help me, Oprah! Help me, Tom Cruise!" He's just going through all of them. It's a funny way of going, but seriously, that's people's lives are in shambles. They get a bad diagnosis or they've hit a rough spot financially. Okay, here's what I'll do: I'll go to church, as if church is the magic formula that fixes the problems of your life. It's like, no, this is not some formula that goes, okay, something bad happened, better get back to church.
Well, there's nothing. I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but there's nothing special about physically showing up to a building on Sunday morning.
Nope.
And that's where a lot of people's problems begin, because they're like, okay, let me just check it off on the list that I did this week, and where was God the rest of the week? I went to church. Anybody can go to church.
Yeah.
Anybody can walk through the doors, and anybody can listen to worship, and anybody can listen to a sermon. But it's the application of all of this stuff that you've taken in. It's the actual responding to the message.
Yeah.
It's the responding to the Holy Spirit that is putting those things in your heart. But more than likely, 30 minutes into it, whenever we're sitting down and you're coming up and doing your intro to your sermon, it's just like, all right, are we doing Mexican? Are we going to, we're going to go find a burger? What are we doing for lunch?
We've done our part now. We showed up. And I have a sermon from back in 2016 where listen, there's just no biblical model whatsoever for just showing up. That's just nothing.
Yeah.
Right? The old timey preachers used to say, you know, you can't be a Christian by just coming to church no more than you can be a car by sitting in a garage.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's just like those are false equivalents to, but that's what people do though. Like I've had times where like people who have gotten in legal trouble and they're on house arrest.
Yeah.
They'll be come to church, and then like as soon as they get acquitted of whatever it is and they're off house arrest, they'll be like, oh man, the Lord took care of this for me, you know, because I was coming to church and all this. And then once the storm is over, they're gone again. Like they
doing the same stuff they
the
were
way
before.
the way that you can know if you are interacting with the faith community and with God and with church and all this in a healthy way, that's not some sort of quid pro quo, like, okay, God, I showed up, now you have to fix my problem, is the more that you come for the right reasons, you'll realize that the answer to your problem matters a lot less.
Yeah.
Whether or not God comes through for you or not, you begin to fall so in love with God. That's when you know that you actually have the right motive in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with these guys, they're like, all right, we tried these guys, this guy, God, all right, let's try your God, right? So it's like, oh, things are going bad in my life. I guess I got to get back into church. Just like, I mean, that's a great idea as long as you're actually going to surrender your life to the God that we're going to be talking about at that church. Because if you're just coming out of some sort of like, it's superstition, it's Christian superstition, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's like the equivalent of having a rabbit's foot in your pocket. You know, I'll just show up to church, hopefully a little bit of that'll rub off on me. It's like, no, this is not the way that it works whatsoever. The God of the universe that created everything doesn't owe you a single thing just because you decided to get out of bed one Sunday morning. And, like, it's just, he doesn't owe you anything. And until you get to that point in your life, you'll continue to use God as some sort of cosmic vending machine, thinking that as long as you put the code in right, that he has to spit back out something that you expect him to spit out. This is not the way that it works whatsoever.
Yeah.
See, people that are truly in love with Jesus understand that no matter what the answer is, no matter what the situation is, I'm good with it because I've got God. He doesn't have to heal me. He doesn't have to make things better. He doesn't have to bless me financially. He doesn't have to do any of that. If he chooses to do any of it, it's already more than I ever could possibly deserve. That right there is the posture of someone who has the proper motives when it comes to God. These folks right here are just like, I will try absolutely anything to get out of this situation. Okay, I'll try coming to church.
Yeah.
If that'll make this all go away, I'll try coming to church. And you go,
it's a good step, but it's not enough.
Yeah, it's got to be you got to have the right motive in it, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't have the right motive, then it's not going to matter whatsoever, because you have to realize that what God is trying to do in and through you and through his creation is so much bigger than your one little situation.
Yeah.
It just is. And so, and I'm not saying that your situations don't matter. I'm not saying that your situations that God doesn't care. I'm just saying, understanding that in the grand scheme of things, whatever it is that you think that God owes you is minuscule into what you've already been given.
Yeah. I think, man, I want to stop there because I think that's just a lot for people to unpack and just kind of digest and let it stew and just take root. I mean, goodness, just I hope that this doesn't fall on deaf ears.
Yeah.
And I hope that people are encouraged by it, and that in this process of all of us, not just people that are listening, but myself and you as well, that we continue to live that out and believe it. And it's just a reflection of what we think about God and what we think about Jesus. Like his grace is sufficient.
Yep. Yeah. Like we say it all the time at church, what God has done for us in Christ is already more than we deserve.
Yeah.
Again, we do not understand the depths of our sinfulness.
Yeah.
We do not understand how much our sin has broken what God has created.
Yeah.
And how it has broken and marred the image of God within each of us so deeply that for us to think that we could possibly be entitled to anything more than the fact that he did what was necessary for that image to be restored, is sheer entitlement. But the amazing thing, to leave on a high note, is that more often than not, God blesses even above and beyond that original grace.
Yeah.
He does heal. He does bless financially. He does bless relationally. He does bless physically. Like he does that above and beyond all the time.
Yeah.
But you have to understand you're not entitled to any of it.
Yeah.
But he does do it a lot. Like it just
dropping truth bombs, y'all.
He is like it's one of those things, and we're going to unpack this so much this weekend, but it's one of those, you got to always have the grace and the truth just together. You got to understand both sides of it. That he doesn't have to bless you, but he does so often.
Oh,
he's so good.
This was good. This is a good conversation. Yeah. So we're going to pick up with the unique part of the story where they're tossing Jonah over the side of the boat.
This brother over the side. Told you Sunday I like to say brother now.
I know,
but not in like the
Hulk Hogan
the
over
Christianese sense, but like whenever you're talking about a dude. I'm not gonna start calling you brother Jared.
Yeah, is that your handwriting? That's not it, right? You write worse than that?
No, that's mine.
That is yours? Is that so pick another one, right?
Hold on, let me see it.
Oh,
that's not mine. Never mind.
Oh,
that
okay.
A looked like mine, but that's Anna's handwriting, I think.
Okay, agree or disagree? It's easy to taste the difference between bottled water and tap.
Agree.
100% agree.
Like I mean, anyone that knows, I can taste and smell the difference in just about anything.
Bruh, like you could do it in the air. You walk by and you're like, there's something in this air.
Dude,
like you're not even smelling it. You're tasting it.
It's my sense of smell is so like acute. It's very frustrating to everyone around me.
Yeah.
Like the older I get, I think the worse it gets too, because like I feel like the people around me are constantly frustrated when I'll be like, "What is that?" And they're like, "I don't smell anything," and I'll be like, "No, seriously, there's something." And somebody's
stomach starts gurgling, and you're like,
my level
it's coming.
of tolerance for it also is so crazy now. My level, like, man, this was probably in my late teens, early 20s. I think maybe more recently, I don't know. But we were going on a trip somewhere, and my sister opened a bag of, like, Funyuns.
Oh, yeah.
In the car. I had to get my parents to tell her she's not allowed to eat them.
Yeah.
In the car. I will puke on the spot. That smells bother me so much.
Like, you don't like the smell of Funyuns? You don't like Funyuns?
No. Good Lord, no. That smell. Also, I'll tell you the other nasty smell, because my niece was eating these at a basketball game. So I'm in this big gym, all these smells, and she's eating the Fritos right in front of me, and I thought...
Plain Fritos?
I don't know whether they were plain or the honey barbecue ones that everyone likes. They smelled so rancid, I thought I was going to get sick in this gym.
You never had Frito pie?
Oh, heck no. I don't like Frito. But, like, people with bad
Frito
breath.
pie's like right up your alley, dude. It's chips and chili and cheese.
Yeah,
melty cheese.
Yeah, but not the Frito part of it. I don't like that. But, seriously, like, people with bad breath, I can't do it. I'm telling you, if you got even the least bit stanky of breath, if you are around me, I will literally walk away.
I feel like I'm called out.
It makes me so sick. Again, I don't know what it is. So, yeah, when it comes to bottled water, 100%, which is like this, we got that bottle filler down the hallway. This water stinks.
You don't like it, though?
No, it tastes fine, but it smells bad.
Oh, okay.
The water actually smells like my hot tub water to me.
I can't drink the tap water that's in West Virginia.
I like tap water.
You know, I don't like. Well, I didn't grow up with it.
I like.
So
the
there's
tap
a
water.
different flavor. Like it's kind of metallic-y almost.
But also, I don't like a lot of the brand name waters that you can get. Like Dasani is terrible.
No, you just want the purified water.
I like the water that you get in the 40-pack at Sam's Club that you have right over there.
Purified. That's the only reason I get it. Because if
it's my favorite.
Yeah. If I had my choice, I'd get Deer Park spring water. I like spring water.
What?
I like spring water.
I'm going to tell you right now, I almost made a Facebook post like a week or two ago because I saw someone drinking Deer Park, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that person has a demon. Like, that's how bad Deer Park is.
Well, I mean, it's
spring water grosses me out.
It's the cheap. Oh, well, it's right from the earth.
I know, it's
that's
awful.
the best.
It's awful.
But
Dasani is, I mean, that's a major player in the bottled water game, and it's terrible.
Well, it's purified water. It's Coke, so it's owned by Coke.
Awful.
And what
you can taste it.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe it's the plastic.
The
that's
stuff
making
from Sam's has no discernible taste or smell.
Yeah.
I'd chug a bottle of it right now.
Yeah.
I've been sipping this whole episode, and every time I take a sip, I get a whiff of it, and it grosses me out. Yeah, I can tell the difference.
But you're doing your part to save the bottles from going into the ocean.
Yeah, I mean, I'll drink it. I'll drink it. My nose don't like it.
I saw you taking a sip out of it earlier, and it looked like you were trying to keep your nose out of the top.
It stinks. It really does. It stinks. It stinks awful.
Yeah.
I can't handle it.
Yeah, I like spring water. It's got the natural vitamins and minerals that come from the earth that are good for you.
Yeah,
so
I don't want that.
But I don't care. Like Erica kind of laughs at me because whenever I get done brushing my teeth, the only way I'll drink like tap water is like right after I brush my teeth, where I've got all that mint flavor in my mouth, and it helps mask the flavor of the tap water. But I'll just sit there
That's like, like people are like crazy about like Smart Water and Fiji and all that.
Yeah.
I don't like any of it. I don't think any of it's as good as the Sam's water.
You don't like glacier water?
No, I actually we were at a concession stand, I think last weekend for one of Atlanta's basketball games. I went to the concession stand, and they had like a brand name bottle, and then they had some of the Sam's water, and they were giving out the brand name water first. And I told them, I was like, would you please give me that Sam's water right there? I do not want that brand name stuff.
What did their face
They're like, no, they all agreed. They were like, yeah, Dasani's terrible.
Yeah.
It's like really funny that they also agreed that the brand name water was worse than Sam's purified water.
Yeah. I'm still not over the fact that you don't like Frito pie, but
I mean,
is that
all of that with like just beef and cheese?
No, it's like chili.
Yeah, but like beef and cheese with no Fritos, and I would be down.
No, Fritos too, man.
People,
it gives you the crunch.
Put Doritos.
No, that's like taco. That they call that like a taco bag or something.
I'm down with that. Yeah, I'm down.
Well, yeah, they do like Doritos with taco meat and cheese.
Yeah. This whole sense of smell thing really came up 2 Sundays ago. I almost couldn't preach because your son's popcorn.
Oh, I know, dude.
I'm like going through like a hound dog through the church in between services, because at first it was my group was out. I had my small group table set up out in the lobby, so I was sitting in this chair, and someone came in to talk to me, and that was the first time I smelled it. I thought it was them, and I thought it was their breath, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, man, that's awful."
I feel sorry for your spouse.
And then after they walked away, I kept smelling it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's everywhere." And then I went in the worship center, and it was all over the worship. I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone has to be smelling this. Like, no one else in the whole church is freaking out like I am about this.
Well, I mean, there's been times here where you get like, okay, so like we have like drains that are all throughout the building because it's a large building. And so if like we have a water leak, which actually one of the things that helped save us from our leak from last year were the drains that are on the floor. But if water hasn't been put down in those to help keep the gases from the sewer and the septic and all of that down, then the water evaporates, and then those sewer smells start coming out. And so it's like, we got to just dump water in the drains. And so at first, initially, it starts to smell like that because you're just like, oh gosh, we need to go check the drains. But then you start smelling it some more, and you're like, God, who burnt popcorn?
Yeah,
of course, it was my son.
Popcorn. Oh, I didn't even think it smelled like burnt popcorn. I thought it smelled like the butter was bad.
Yeah,
that's what it was hitting me with. I was like, oh man, what in the? This is my own issue because I deal with this at home with like when you have kids. Yeah, the smells that come from kids. I'm telling you, there's like, especially like Landon's getting to that age where he has to start wearing deodorant, and he's
Nolan's there.
Every kid when they hit that age just refuses to do it.
Yeah,
and like he'll get done playing sports of some sort, and he'll come and like want to be around me, I'm like, dude, seriously, I'm not. You got to go. You got to go until you take care of it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't smell you right now. I will
just
literally
want to love on you, Daddy.
Dude, I'm telling you, I'm so sensitive to that. Like, brushing my teeth. It's like the first thing I have to do in the morning.
Yeah.
Like, I have to get that taste and that flavor and all that out of my mouth from waking up.
Yeah.
And like people that don't do that, especially like kids, and they
dude, it drives
come
me
up
nuts.
and they're like, "Good morning." I'm like, seriously, it's a good thing I haven't eaten breakfast yet, because like it would have been over right there.
Yeah.
Like I'll lose my appetite over smells. So,
dude, the worst is like whenever someone doesn't brush their teeth, but they're drinking coffee and then they're talking to you. So it's like coffee morning breath.
Yeah, I cannot.
You're like, hey, real quickly, hold these Tic Tacs in your mouth.
Yeah,
for
would you
me.
hold these for me in your mouth, please?
Yep. I don't want them back. You just let them go. Yep. All righty. Well, we appreciate everybody listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Share it with people. Let people know what we're talking about on social media. It's real easy to do so. Just go to YouTube or go to Facebook, and you can click the share link, and it'll give you options on where to post it and how to share it and everything else. But thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening in with us today. We really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram. You can also watch the video version of this on YouTube as well. All you have to do is search up the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. From all of us here, we want to say thank you, and we'll see you next week.